Well, the Eagles' salary cap just got a lot bigger, which opens up Howie Roseman and company to maybe go big fish hunting in free agency, although their top target, he's no longer available. Also, Philly has a chance to get Calvin Ridley for a second time, and Tyler Steen is excited about the chance to start if Jason Kelce retires, which could be coming soon. Thomas Mott, this is the Thomas Mott Show. Okay, I did not expect the NFL to announce a major salary cap update just yesterday, with an expected rise from $224 million in team cap space last season to almost $250 expected this offseason. With the new league year exactly 3 weeks away on March 11th, Philadelphia's current $19 million in cap space could rise to about $27 million just because the NFL is raising the overall space. Now, of course, Philadelphia's not the only team that gets this big bump. It's all 32 NFL teams. And so just because Philadelphia is going to go from 19 to 27 means that all their teams are also going to see a massive bump in their cap space. But Philadelphia being right about 19th in total cap space, right in the middle of the NFL team in terms of most money to spend, any additional money is going to help if they want to go big fish hunting this offseason. That is worth noting, how he can make just a couple of moves, maybe a couple of extensions, and create an additional $25+ million in cap space if he so desires. And of course, All About the Birds gave you 4 examples of how this could happen, including cutting Kevin Byard to save $13 million, extending Hassan Reddick to create 11, and then, of course, extending Landon Dickerson and Devontae Smith to create another 2. Now, these are the only moves they can make. There's a bunch of other deals where they can push money back or move money forward or extend this player or that player. Josh Davis broke it down really well on his channel a couple of days ago, but basically, it's very simple. Philadelphia has $19 million right now. It can go to $27 million in a couple of weeks, and then they can make it north of $50 million with a couple of smart moves. Now, will Howie Roseman do that? That remains to be seen, but if they want to go out and sign a big-name safety or a big-name cornerback or get a big-name receiver or running back, they're going to have the money to do so while also being able to extend Devontae Smith, extend Landon Dickerson, and maybe keep Hassan Reddick. Now, Philadelphia just made a very interesting running back move by signing former 49ers third-round pick in 2022, Tyrion Davis-Price, to a future reserve contract this next season. Plus, according to Davis-Price's agency, the Eagles gave him the biggest future reserve contract out of the last 396 similar contracts this season. Now, if you don't know, Davis-Price was one of the top backs in the SEC back in 2021 with LSU, having a career-high 1,744 yards plus 15 touchdowns his junior year. He's also a big back at 6 foot, 211 pounds, and ran a 4.48 40 at the combine. Now, he was a third-round pick, so obviously other teams thought very highly of him, and I watched multiple 49er insiders rave about him during 49er camp the past couple of seasons. But of course, with a stacked Niner running back room like they have Christian McCaffrey, he only had 34 carries for 99 yards in 2022 and 6 carries in 1 appearance this last season. Now, of course, Philadelphia does this because Boston Scott, DeAndre Swift, and Rashaad Penny are all set to enter free agency, and Davis-Price, well, he's cheap, and so it's a low downside, high upside signing who will at least get a chance to compete for a roster spot in the Eagles' very, very thin backfield. Now, is this a big signing? Is he going to turn in anything special? Probably not, but still, I really like this move by the Birds. Now, of course, today is officially the first day teams can place the franchise tag on eligible candidates, and there are a lot of big names out there, as pointed out from Adam Schefter. I mean, look at this list of top players who might get franchise tag, or if they are able to walk in free agency, might be options for Philadelphia. One top Eagles target, though, was Bucs safety Antoine Winfield, and, well, he's no longer a top target, as he will reportedly be tagged by Tampa Bay, meaning Philadelphia is going to have to look elsewhere, whether it's the NFL draft or other free agent names, for a new starting safety. Now, with Antoine Winfield off the board, sure, you can look towards the NFL draft, but why not look towards your own division in soon-to-be free agent Xavier McKinney from the New York Giants? McKinney's just 24 years old and was pretty darn good this past season on a team in New York that was pretty darn bad. Again, I wanted Antoine Winfield. He was probably the top safety out there, but if you can't have the top safety, then maybe you get one of the next best options. Now, speaking of the Giants, it's worth noting there's a new report out saying that Saquon Barkley is not likely to be tagged by New York, meaning he's going to go ahead and be a free agent, which of course we mentioned a couple of weeks ago, but now it's officially official. So, as mentioned in terms of big game hunting, if Philadelphia wants to go get a big name back like Saquon Barkley or Derrick Henry, as we mentioned yesterday, they're both going to be available, and so it's up to you, Howie. Although one name that keeps popping up in my mentions that no one seems to be talking about is soon-to-be free agent Jaguars wide receiver Calvin Ridley, who has a very unique trade clause in his contract when he was dealt from Atlanta just a couple of years ago, where if the Jaguars re-sign Calvin Ridley, if they just give him a brand new contract, they have to send their 2024 second-round draft pick to the Atlanta Falcons. Now, this does a couple of things. First, it tells me that Ridley probably won't be staying in Jacksonville because it's like you got to trade for your own player. You got to give up a second-round draft pick in order to keep him and also give him a brand new contract, meaning he's probably going to hit the open market. With Quez Watkins and Alontae Zaccheaus likely on their way out, would Philly be interested in pairing Ridley with the already elite tandem of Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown? Remember, like 2 off seasons ago, Jay Glazer revealed that the Eagles had a trade in place with Atlanta to go get Calvin Ridley, but then it fell through due to his whole sports betting issue, his whole suspension. Remember that? Kind of a big deal. They ended up getting A.J. Brown instead, which worked out pretty well, but they originally wanted Calvin Ridley. Listen to this.
It was actually funny because they were one of the teams, they were close to a deal with Calvin Ridley, with Atlanta for Calvin Ridley, and Atlanta backed out at the last second, and Philly was like, well, what's going on? And they couldn't really tell him. And so Philly wasn't too happy. And then after looked at it like, all right, Atlanta, Atlanta did business the right way. They weren't allowed to say anything. Again, the legalities of it. Couldn't say a word. They just had to pull out. But man, if Philly could have gotten a talent like Calvin Ridley when he didn't have these issues, that would have been good for him. So again, they're aggressive. Howie is always really aggressive. That would have been big, especially as a lot of Alabama guys, and man, it would have been, that would have been a good one had he not had the issues, but he did. So Atlanta just had to pull out and kind of couldn't tell him for a couple of weeks why.
Now, I know it's unlikely Philadelphia spends big money on a wide receiver. They don't need a big-name wide receiver because they already have 2 really good ones. But Ridley's kind of this unique player who had 1,000 yards receiving with Jacksonville, but also kind of underachieved. I don't think he would demand top wide receiver money. And, of course, to play with Jalen Hurts, a former Alabama player, to play Devontae Smith, a former Alabama player, it could make a ton of sense. Plus, as mentioned earlier, Philadelphia really wanted him. They tried to trade for him. Same thing goes with Derrick Henry last year. Those 2 names we've brought up the past 2 days, would it make sense that Philadelphia still could be interested in them? Now, it's been all quiet on the whole Jason Kelce retirement front, which is kind of nice. We've talked about it way too much over the past couple of weeks, but the deadline is reportedly set, and based on the history with Kelce, it would make sense to be at the new league year. Outside DI Birds put it best last week, saying, quote, last year, the NFL's legal tampering period started on March 13th. On that exact day, Jason Kelce sent a tweet publicly announcing he would return for another season, although he likely informed Howie Roseman of his decision at the 2023 NFL Scouting Combine when they recorded their episode of New Heights. I'd expect some type of announcement on what Kelce is doing this season by March 11th, which is the start of the NFL's league tampering period this year. Remember, Jason Kelce is not on the books for 2024. He would need a brand new contract, and so with Howie Roseman trying to figure out the cap space, as we talked about just a couple of minutes ago, it's likely that he set a deadline with Jason to say, hey, we need to know by the new league year on March 11th. That way we can either set aside the alleged $14 million one-year deal it would take to keep Jason Kelce and bring him back and everyone's happy, or you would need to be like, okay, you're going to leave, you're going to officially retire, we can spend that $14 million on somebody else, whether it's Ridley or Derrick Henry or a safety or a cornerback. You guys get the whole picture. Now, as mentioned, Roseman did interview with Kelce on New Heights at the Combine last year, and shortly after posted this comeback celebration video with Howie in the same building. We all got excited. It was great. It's safe to say, though, that either you're going to get a retirement announcement this time, again, same time as last year, or maybe a similar celebration if Kelce does in fact decide to come back. Still, though, if you believe his teammates from the Super Bowl this past week, it sounds like nobody really knows, and you wonder if Howie Roseman has even been notified of what Jason's kind of leaning towards. Remember, Adam Schefter did kind of preview that he was going to retire at the end of the year, and then backtracked off of that. Either way, listen to Jordan Mailata when asked by my buddy Jake Asman on his YouTube channel just the other day, do you think Kelce's going to come back?
Now that your season is over, obviously your starting center, a future Hall of Famer, Jason Kelce, said he's going to take some time before he decides what he wants to do next. One, how much has he meant to you and your career, your personal growth as a player? And 2, how badly do you hope he makes the decision to come back for another season?
If he comes back, he comes back.
Right.
But I don't know, man. He's on a tear right now. He's on a tear.
I mean, his podcast with his brother is hilarious.
He's on a tear. I mean, Bills games.
Yep.
Now,
You're jealous he was taking his shirt off?
Sports were like, hey, he was at the casino playing blackjack with the boys. I was like, hell yeah, that's cool. I was like, man, he's living it up right now.
I read your comments. I know everyone goes down below and says, Thomas, he is coming back. Like, for sure he's coming back. I still think he's not, although I hope that he does. If you think he's coming back, drop a like down below. Let me see how many of you guys believe that number 62 is going to play for one more year in 2024. Now, of course, if Kelce does decide to retire, that means that Cam Jurgens moves over to center, as was the original plan when they drafted him a couple years back. But then likely second-year guard Tyler Steen is going to get the start next to Cam Jurgens, because of course Jurgens is no longer playing right guard. Although interesting enough, Steen told SI.com just the other day he feels really ready to be a second-year starter, saying, quote, I feel like I came a long way, just learning and getting better, taking the coaching and stuff like that. It was an adjustment moving from left tackle to right guard, but I feel like with time and experience, it's helped me a lot. Steen would also add that the offseason is to get yourself better, to focus on yourself, become a better player in order to help the team. I'm not really concerned about what other people do. I'm going to do the same thing regardless. At the end of the day, I'll do whatever the team asks me to do because I want to help the team. It's at least good to know that Philadelphia has had a plan in place for whenever Jason Kelce retires for basically the past 2 seasons. I mean, they drafted Cam Jurgens just in case Kelce retired last year, which I've talked about, he almost did, but they also drafted Tyler Steen that they could replace Cam Jurgens whenever Kelce does retire this year or next year, and you have to move Jurgens over to center. It just was really well done and really good planning by Howie Roseman and company to make sure they had this plan in place. That way, regardless of what happens with 62, Philadelphia's offensive line will still have elite tackles, a really good left guard, a young up-and-coming center, and hopefully a young star right guard in Tyler Steen, who I thought played pretty well in very limited, 62 snaps over the course of the 2023 season. Now, it's going to be interesting to see what happens over the next couple of days we get towards the NFL scouting combine, because Philadelphia is going to continue to meet with people and start to kind of reveal what they're looking for and what they're looking at in the NFL draft. I took a bunch of meetings during the Senior Bowl, but really the NFL combine is a chance to meet with other players who are not seniors and potential first-round draft picks that Philadelphia could take with their first pick and their multiple second-round draft picks as well. I'm very excited to cover that. Make sure you guys subscribe for that. So we're going to have the latest Eagle coverage all off-season long, almost every single day. I'm Thomas Mott. This has been The Thomas Mott Show.